Riyad Mahrez. And so at half-time, here at the Etihad Stadium, it is City 3, Villa 0. Well, let's go back to the studio, and I'm sure there'll be some intriguing thoughts. Let's hear them now.
Well, lots to talk about from that first half. What a performance for City. We said we wanted them to bounce back, and that is exactly what they have done. 3-0 up after 45 minutes. My panel still alongside me. Gareth, you said 3-0. I'm sure that was, you meant to say that was only a first half prediction.
I'll stay with it.
Well, let's start with the first goal. And we said they needed an early goal, Darius, and that's exactly what they got.
Yeah, certainly. They got the early goal, gave them a good start. They look fresh out there, they're lively. Managed to follow it up at right times. We commented in looking at the game, they're scoring at the right times, the right moments, to really sort of put the nails in the coffin to Aston Villa. Obviously, it's only half-time, but City certainly at half-time will have the wind in their sails going into that dressing room.
And we mentioned Stiliyan, you know, with Aston Villa wanting to play so high, we thought there'd be lots of opportunities for City to come in behind, but actually that didn't come until a lot later on in the game, and it was the set pieces where Aston Villa were a lot weaker.
Yeah, it was, and it was the setup, the way Aston Villa has set up. Don't forget they've got now set pieces coaches, they work a lot on it. But you would less expected where City would score. Not having Mings in a team, this is where the set pieces really affect the team, because he's usually one the presence who attacks the ball, who communicates with the player, make sure they put them in the right position. But it was something that City was given a chance to go in the lead, and they managed to do that. And Villa haven't managed to go back since the first goal.
We've got to talk about Bernardo Silva back in the squad, and he was one of the names who kept popping up and up and up when we were watching that first half here. It was kind of like a bit from FIFA, where you just pick your favourite player and go wherever you want. It was a bit rogue.
It certainly was, wasn't it? We were trying to keep an eye on him and seeing what he's doing and consider what the tactics were. But I mean, he played in about 3 positions in 2 possessions. So he played left back, he ended up at centre back, and then we saw a bit of him at right back. Didn't give the ball away once, so well done to him. It's obviously something that Pep's looked at to confuse the opposition. And myself and Stiliyan commented, he's probably the best player on the ball, so having him have that comfortability on the ball is probably giving the attackers and the midfielders a bit more time to work out how they're going to build.
And this is what really interesting. He's not off the ball. Off the ball, we've seen him, you know, taking in as a left centre back, as a right centre back, even marking Watkins. We're talking about if Watkins come out of this game without scoring goal, there's a problem. But what was really important for Pep is it's about overloading that little in the middle of the park, because Villa play very narrow, and soon Man City get the ball, that's extra body who can move the ball. What that does, he give Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne a license to go for the forward and receive the ball for the forward, which makes
we've seen, haven't we?
That's what we've seen later in the game as well.
And we've got to mention Haaland. We did say pre-match that it takes a while for him to get those touches, and we did see that today. You know, his touch rate is so low in games anyway, but for the first 20 minutes, we were all trying to figure out if he'd had a touch, and it didn't look like he'd had that many at all. But then he was there when he was needed, and that assist was absolutely perfect, wasn't it, Gareth?
Yeah, that's how he's had to learn to play this season, really. We were going 15, 20 minutes. Has he touched the ball yet? Probably not. But, you know, he was still making the runs, he was making himself available, but being patient with it. That's how he's had to adapt this season, be ready for that chance to come. And as the half went on, he's got a lot more involved, a lot more touches, and he's been involved in one of the goals. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to open up possibly even more, and I wouldn't be surprised if the chances keep coming second half.
I don't want him to score a hat-trick. That's enough.
Darius, we mentioned a bit about how he did look frustrated at Spurs, and he was occasionally crowded out quite a lot and just struggled to find his footing. We did see a little bit of that already today, but he just seems to sort of stay a bit more cool, calm and collected, and kind of like a swan, doesn't he? You know, even if he is peddling, he's not showing it.
For the goal especially, I felt like he kept himself composed and allowed City to score a tap-in the end. And whilst he hasn't had many touches on the ball, we did comment that the centre-backs of Aston Villa have been very much occupied with him. Nevertheless, he's making runs in behind and not always getting the ball, but they've got to stay with him. They've got to try and pick up those runs. And there's that collision with the goalkeeper, which could have ended up in a goal for City as well. So he's a danger and he's a threat. but not getting used that much will be frustrating because I do think there is more to come from him.
And also, we've seen a few times about him making those runs. He's actually trying to get there. It seems like City just take their time. That they're kind of toying with Villa. They try to bring them out, to draw them in. So they find out, and where he's really being strong, Jack Grealish especially on the left-hand side. They've just been using his skills. He's been really more acting than Mahrez, and they keep missing those runs. But will come.
It will come, yeah.
And those two chances they had, maybe you convert the next two in the second half.
It is frustrating as a forward when the ball doesn't come, but he's making the kind of runs which are real. The defenders have to go with them because there comes a point where defenders say he's not going to get the ball. It's a fake run. I'm not going to keep chasing him around the pitch. They're chasing him down every yard, even if he doesn't get the ball. So that's probably keeping him motivated.
He's occupied the centre halves, like Darius said, and for that reason, the dangerous runs from midfield have been inside the fullback and inside the centre half. De Bruyne's got in there a couple of times, Gundogan the other side, and that's the way Pep likes to play. He creates so many chances by that, the wingers staying wide, and the centre forward occupying the centre halves. That's where the space creates.
And we'll talk a bit more about that space created for both Grealish and Mahrez in just a second, but back to Haaland and that sight, which even though he had his head down, the spatial awareness to thread the ball through to Gundogan, who was looking for a goal anyway after his first one being ruled out.
I think that comes from being in that situation so many times. That's probably happening in training every week, when they get opportunities to do their small-sided games. I think that he kind of knew where his teammate was going to be there. I think Stiliyan mentioned when you get teammates who've played together for a period of time, you get to know where they're going to be almost, and it's almost like you're communicating without communicating. The football is the communication. So fair play to him. Yeah, if he's contributing that minimal amount of times and they're 3-0 up, then I can understand why.
And we're talking about his goals, but also we talked about the midfielders running from deep and arriving in the right time and the right position and the right opportunity for them. And that's what Gundogan does. What he does is he arrives at the right areas. He's pretty much as a striker position, and what he does, he just finishes. It was an easy tapping, but he's there and he makes those runs, and the players are nowhere, because what we do as a players, we concentrate on the ball. We don't concentrate sometimes what's happened. The games go so fast. So being in that position and running from deep makes it difficult for the opposition to mark you.
And we spoke, you spoke just then about how, once you've worked with a teammate for a long while, you have that connection like we've seen today already. You both have. What's missing for those Aston Villa defenders, who Chambers is one of them, just struggling to cope with the pressure that's on them?
No, what is missing is just the quality of Manchester City. Manchester City are just finding the little pockets, little spaces. You can say that the width is really good, that they know when to use the players. But the good thing is where they're really struggling with Kamara and Douglas Luiz, what they're doing, at the moment they're confused that they're staying central, which they protect the back four and the centre backs, or they just follow the runners. So what Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne, they just pull away. When they pull away, they just open space, and when they open that space, that you can see David Silva steps in it. Rodri, who's been really involved, we talked about him. He just run the tempo. He just play little passes. He push the ball forward when he needs to be, but when he has to take his time, he takes his time, and he controls the tempo.
Of course, the first goal coming from a set piece, and you do think that Villa should have done a lot better. They had no man on that post, and just the way Rodri was able to get it in from such a tight angle, Stiliyan, it was a great goal, but Villa should have done better potentially.
I believe so. Me and Gareth just discussed it. It seems like the new trend at the moment is like, don't put anybody on the post. Everybody concentrating on a zonal, man for man, differently. But we've seen so many goals. If you have a man in the post, one of the posts, especially in the front post, it gives you a different position for the goalkeeper. Yeah. What he does, he gives you to go further forward, and then he can come and collect the ball. He's more in control. Not having nobody on the post, what he does, he pins your goalkeeper in a line. As soon as he does that, every little flick with the pace that delivered the ball, it's a danger. That's what happened.
Such a hard run to defend, isn't it? As soon as you've got a run on the defender, and it's to the front post, it's virtually impossible to stop. He's got a head, there's a tiny little block or confusion. He's got half a yard, and as a defender marking someone like that, you can't stop it. He's got there, and he's headed it down in a tough position for the goalie to save, and that's why he's not got enough on it to push.
It's like
it
the run makes the goal, doesn't it? It's once, as a forward, you're taught that near post area is where the goals are. And he only needs to touch the ball, doesn't he? Because the run is in such a good area. He's got the run on the defender. Rightfully so, he shouldn't score, but that touch doesn't have to be a heavy touch, does it?
No.
Just needs to get...
Even if he doesn't score,
exactly,
it can lead to an assist for somebody coming around the back post.
And this is the probably most dangerous area that you can defend. I had to protect the near post.
As your job on the set.
That's what So every single manager was direct instruction was, don't let anybody comes in front of you.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody beat you. Make sure you clear that ball where you clear danger. Because as soon as somebody touches that ball, runners behind, goalkeeper get confused, everybody's on the top of the goalkeeper. It makes it really, really difficult.
And Jack Grealish, Darius, against his former club, he has been the spark that he was against Spurs again, wasn't he?
Yeah, we predicted it a little bit. He's been lively, he's been sharp, had a great opportunity to score a goal, and well done. He got it on target. Keeper pulls off a really good save, but he's been really, really on fire today. He'll want to get a goal. He'll want to be playing second half to get a goal, especially with it being 3-0 and the feeling like the game's going to open up a little bit more. Obviously,
winning the penalty as well, which was particularly clear. I think, you know, that we looked at it from a couple of angles. It was clear.
It was a clear penalty, but I feel Grealish won it, if I'm allowed to say that, because he's clever at that. He's really good at doing that. And we shouted a couple of times before, why don't you go down, why don't you go down? If someone's making a challenge in the box on other incidents, but he's got that down to a T. If you make a tackle on Grealish and he doesn't feel there's any benefit to him staying up, he'll win the free kick or penalty.
And this is something that Aston Villa side should know all too well, because it's worked for them when he used to play for them, of course. And then the conversion from Mahrez, you know, the known penalty taken now. He's, you know, he had a wobble on an occasion pre the World Cup, and he's come back from that. And even though Haaland was stood there, we saw him sandwiched between the two Villa players, waiting further back. It's the composure from Mahrez, isn't it? In the end?
He's been the established penalty taker for City for a while now, and he's had a few problems. But in this game, they're 2-0 up anyway. I felt like the pressure wasn't on him as much, and he went and struck it well and got the goal that City needed.
Especially Martinez, he have a good record with penalties.
That's scary, isn't it?
Even in the Premier League, he's been really good. He's been really strong in the penalties, and Mahrez, he stepped in and perfect. Similar like the left foot. Nice and cool. I was worse than taking penalties, so I can't really talk about penalties, but it's a great penalty.
Well, we've had a question in on WhatsApp. It's who was the most underrated player for City? Gareth, you might see yourself as an underrated player for City. Do you want to take that one?
Well, I can't claim myself as one, can I? Yeah, underrated players is tough, really, isn't it, to pull one out? But yeah, you're right. I might have to use myself as that answer.
Go for it.
Saves me thinking of another one.
Well, the ref and the players are starting to make their way back out onto the pitch. A big second half on the way. City 3 goals to the good as we enter the next 45 minutes, and we will hand you back over to our commentary team of Andy Morrison and Ali Mann.
Thanks, Ellen. Welcome back to the Etihad Stadium. There are some fantastic statistics ahead of this game. I think my favourite is that City have won their last 12